God is so much more satisfying for your body than sex is. You might hear that and think, what is this guy talking about? There ain't no way. And believe me, I used to think that too. Have you ever laid awake at night, or maybe you're just trying to have a nap, and you're tempted with the urge of sexual sin? You're tempted to go to porn or masturbation or get a nap and text somebody for some sexual encounter. Your body's feeling it. You're ready to go. You're thinking, man, if only I could just have sex right now. I could watch porn and I can pleasure myself right now. This would be satisfaction for my body. And have you ever thought, I don't think God can satisfy my body because this is a physical desire of mine and God is not a physical being. If you've thought those things, you're right with me. I've thought those same things. This is a physical thing in my body. So how could a non-physical being come and bring satisfaction? It sounds crazy until you understand it. So are you ready for a mind trip? I'll show you what this looks like on a practical level. 1 Corinthians 6:13 says, you say, food for the stomach and the stomach for food, and God will destroy them both. The body, however, is not meant for sexual immorality, but for the Lord, and the Lord for the body. Now think about this comparison. There's food and there's a stomach. And what this is saying is that the food is for the stomach. Now you tell me, are there many, if any, other purposes for the stomach than food? The stomach is simply there to digest food in a healthy way. And so Scripture is making this comparison, saying there's food that's for the stomach. The stomach is simply for food. And where does food go? It only goes there. In the same way, the body is for the Lord, and the Lord is for the body. In other words, the highest purpose of our body is to find satisfaction in the Lord. And in the same way, the Lord is totally committed to bringing satisfaction to the body. What on earth does that mean? Well, the very next verse says, by his power, God raised the Lord from the dead, and he will raise us also. Now, you got to understand what Paul is doing here when he's writing this. This is in the context of sexual desire. Paul is teaching the church in these verses how to get out of sexual sin, how to not tolerate sexual immorality, and how to actually steward their sexual desires in a godly way. In the context of sexual desire, Paul is saying the body is for the Lord is for the body. As Jesus was raised from the dead, the power of God will raise us up also. What? I'm lying there in bed thinking this is a physical desire. How could a non-physical being come and satisfy? But then I have to ask myself, how could a non-physical God raise a physical body from the dead? If he could raise a physical body, do I then have to believe that he could get my physical body through a momentary urge? I have to believe it. Now I have to understand what that looks like. We're three-part beings. We're spirit, soul, and body. And so our body is literally connected to the invisible parts of who we are, the spirit and the soul. And so when we have a sexual urge, we can look beneath the surface at the heart. We can look at our heart and go, hey, what are we actually wanting right now? What am I desiring on a heart level, or what am I longing for? And often it might be peace, or it might be connection, or it might be intimacy. Well, Psalm 37:4 is so profound to me, and it says, delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. See, sexual activity is not just a physical thing, and that might be what the world wants you to believe. But sexual activity is a spirit, soul, and body activity. God has connected those three parts of us on purpose. And so our bodily urges can point to a deeper desire in our hearts that God can then come and satisfy. So here's what this can look like. All I'm thinking is, I just want to watch porn right now. I just want to get an app. I just want to text someone. I just want to hook up with someone. I just want to masturbate. That feels good. All I'm thinking about is this sexual experience. It could even be on the healthy angle. In marriage, I just want to have sex with my spouse. You can consider then, what does it look like on a heart level? And I remember one night lying in bed, experiencing exactly these thoughts. And I felt like the Lord whispered something to me that was profound that I didn't understand at the time. The words I heard were, you want to be sexually desired. I heard these words and it was profound because I realized in my head and in my body, I'm just thinking about having a sexual experience. But my heart is going, hey, I want to be desired. And because I want to be desired, I'm going to a fantasy in my mind where I would be desired even though it's not reality. in my pain of not being sexually desired in that moment, I wanted to numb out and I wanted to go to sexual sin for pleasure because I didn't know any other way to experience satisfaction in my body. But when God highlighted something in my heart, I was then able to praise Him and thank Him for the desire that He has for me. In fact, He desires me so much that He sent His Son to die for me on the cross and pay the highest price so that I could be reconciled back into right relationship with God for eternity. That is how much He desires me. And so I started praising Him for that and thanking Him for that. And guys, the power of doing this is that when we're thanking God for fulfilling the desires of our hearts, we're delighting ourselves in Him. He comes and He brings a satisfaction to our hearts that leads to peace in our bodies. We don't need to go to act out in sexual sin anymore because we're content, we're in a good state, and God has now brought satisfaction and peace to our body. This is different than when we go to sexual sin, and even though there might be a moment of pleasure, we then feel all of this shame and this heaviness and this inclination to hide and keep secrets, and we feel the heaviness of all of these emotions. Now I know what it's like, I've done it for years, but I can tell you when you learn a new way and you learn God's way of bringing peace and satisfaction to your body by the power and the might of God, the same power that raised Jesus from the dead, you start to realize that God's satisfaction on your body lasts longer and is so much greater than anything a sexual experience can give you. Put in the comments one question that you have about having God bring satisfaction to your physical body, because I know sometimes it's hard to understand and hard to grasp when this is a new concept. So make sure you put your question in the comments, and then if you want to hear more stories of me exposing my sin and my shame for your benefit, make sure you subscribe and think about sharing this video with somebody else who could benefit from it.